Okay, dokie. I think we are live, and there is about 3 seconds delay between me saying something and Alex receiving that something. So if we are being a little bit strange today, that's what's happening. Hopefully, it will get better rather than worse. And I haven't really prepared a stupid joke. Have you? I forgot about that.
No, we can forego the joke today.
No
Just give
jokes
them
today. Yeah.
a sort of a temporary amnesty from our terrible humour.
Yes, I think they might need it. So, what did we do last week? We're doing this for real, was the thought that you wanted to have. And before we jump into, oh, hang on, how has the eating been? Has that been fine? All according to plan?
How's the eating been? It's been the same. I've just been psyching myself up and trying to decide what the best day to start on is. But it hasn't really changed. But yeah, I'll be starting the process soon, and that's that.
What do you mean when you say I'll be starting the process soon?
Well, a 6-week protocol with
Right.
carnivore and milk, gradually reducing the milk until transitioning over to pure keto carnivore.
And what are you eating right now? What have you been eating the last week?
Meat, milk, cheese, honey, coffee, and then the occasional transgression here or there.
Okay, so was that the plan?
Yeah, I told myself I could have a few treats because I'm not going to be having carbs for a year. So I went to a few places which I like to frequent.
Did you plan those treats in advance?
Yeah.
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 Cool. Didn't use the sheet though? The eating sheet that you used when you had the salted caramel hazelnut praline, whatever it was.
No, I totally forgot about that.
The next time you're having a treat and you're planning it, I want you to use that sheet. Because the more you're doing that, the more you're conditioning yourself. That's the only
Okay.
rule. Just use that one. And I think so last week we were talking about, or you said that you were going to record your first video.
Mm-hmm.
And you were doing it for real. What's the thought?
Yeah, I'm going to do it. It's coming.
But you were going to do it last week. What happened?
What happened last week? I don't know. I guess I just procrastinated and was busy with work and a few other things. I kept on saying, I just kept on putting it off, but I've got plenty of free time in the next week, so next week is very quiet. So
Okay, let's have a look at the procrastination. Why did you do that?
Well, I suppose because it's easier than doing something which requires effort and discomfort. I mean, I've never made a video before for YouTube, so there are a set of processes with which I have to engage, like video editing and filming and recording with a microphone. All of these processes I haven't ever done. So typically, when I have something to do which is pressing, but I have no experience in doing it, that's when I procrastinate the most because, just fear of the unknown, fear of making a mistake. So I'm just dealing with that. But
Can you see the similarities between this and giving into a craving?
yeah, I suppose the similarity could be said to be that it's similar parts of the brain which are operating both when the primitive mind takes over and one eats compulsively, and when the primitive part of the brain is trying to protect the individual from the dangers of change and the new, that that the brain thinks that exactly what I'm doing now is enough to survive. So don't change anything. Don't, on the one hand, don't stop eating sugar because that gives me my regular supply of dopamine. And don't make the video because that would introduce a variable into the habitual established existence, which seems to be enough to survive. So in other words, it's like the part of the brain that says, why do more than is necessary to survive? But that part of the brain doesn't have the capacity for intellectual concepts such as that, sugar slowly kills you, or that procrastinating will lead to a catastrophic end in one's existence, wherein one is extremely unhappy and dissatisfied, and one's life becomes chaotic and unmanageable. So yeah, I can see the similarities between the two.
Yeah, so in both cases, you are doing something to avoid a negative emotion. So you are eating because you don't want to feel the craving, which might come from anxiety or something else, but you're always eating to dull those emotions. And it's the same thing, just the other way around. When you procrastinate, you want to stay away from the fear of failing or being judged or whatever it might happen, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's the fear of the unknown. So you're avoiding a negative emotion by not doing it. So we could talk about procrastination as being like an urge to procrastinate. So you have an urge to eat or you have an urge to procrastinate, and you can deal with them the same way. Just allow the urge to be there and you don't respond to it, as in you don't procrastinate. You already decided what you're going to do. You feel that urge, and then you go and do it anyway.
Yeah. No, I understand. Procrastination is a huge problem in my life.
Mine too.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm working on right now, a lot of the time. My brain loves procrastination. And I just have to sit with it every time, just like I did with the cravings. I'm like, okay, this is just an uncomfortable emotion. It's fine. I need to get this shit done. And then I just do it.
It's remarkable.
Yeah, you would be surprised how much you get done when you can overcome that urge to procrastinate.
Yeah, I have a to-do list on my telephone. Every time some small every time there's something I need to do, I put it onto the to-do list, and it's just getting longer and longer. But there's nothing on the list which is particularly laborious or complicated. I can complete every single task. So it is something of a mystery to me why I get so stressed and resistant inside my mind when thinking about doing them. And it's not even the very common dilemma of avoiding problems precisely because I have allowed them to mount up. Even if I completed everything on the to-do list and then new items had to be put on the list, I would, even if it was just one or two or three of them, I would still feel the same anxiety about doing them. So it doesn't really matter if it's a short list or a long list. I just don't deal with problems as they arise. I think Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this through the symbolism of I think he uses the term like a dragon or something, like yeah, basically just don't let your problems deal with your problems immediately, because most problems have a tendency to grow in scale, and then they can become sinister. So the example he gives is you receive correspondence from the
I want to know about your problems. Tell me about one of your things on the to-do list. Anyone.
Okay, well, I had a problem for quite a long time, which is that this my old internet service provider. I left Virgin Media because their customer service was really fragmented and pretty diabolical. They'd actually allowed someone else who wasn't me to access my account and shut down my internet. I didn't have internet for 5 days, and then when I got it, reconnected.
Okay, just tell me the problem. What does it say on your to-do list? I don't need the story.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Basically, I closed down the account. I didn't owe them any money, but some automated system thought that I did, and I kept on receiving bills for a final payment, which I didn't actually owe them. And then I instead of calling them to deal with it, I just ignored the letter. And then the letter, and then the debt was then given to a debt collecting agency, which obviously is much more aggressive and unreasonable and uncontactable. So eventually I dealt with it, and I called them, and I got through and had to go over this long explanation of what had happened.
Is this still on your list? I want
no,
one item that
it's
is
not.
on your list.
It's not. No, it's not still on my list, but it was an example of something that I
but I want something that is currently on your list that we can work with. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be complicated.
It's just the pressure of the moment has just wiped my fucking memory clean. Jesus Christ, what is this? Fucking Jeremy Paxman, like,
give me the to-dos.
Okay, all right. I've got a cracked version of Windows on my laptop because I bought a secondhand laptop. And when you have a cracked version of Office, I didn't realize, Microsoft will send a fucking signal to it to basically lock you out of it until you enter a valid key. And I don't own the copy of Office, so I've got I don't know, I don't want to buy Office because who the fuck buys Office? You know, that's retarded. So I've got to contact the guy who sold it to me because he's a bit of an IT whiz and he can access my computer remotely and reinstall Office for me. And it's really important that I do it because I can't do my various invoices for my work. And it's been like this for a month. I still owe my employer an invoice from June, and I physically cannot make an invoice and print it out until I've reinstalled Office. And because it's computery bollocks, I avoid it. And all I have to do is send a text message to this guy. He will respond immediately, as he always does, because he's kind of like my IT guru. He's my, he helps me out when I've got IT problems and I pay him. But I haven't for the last month. I haven't had Microsoft Office for the last month, which is retarded.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Stop. So you need to contact this guy that sold Office to you.
He sold the computer to me. He sold the computer, yeah.
Okay. What are you thinking about that? When you think about that you need to contact this guy that sold the computer to you, what are your thoughts?
Okay. One thought which is contributing to my apprehension is that I've already had this problem with him once before. And so it does this periodically, and I have to call him, and then he reinstalls it or finds me a security key or something. But it's just a faff. And I've got to contact him for like the third time about this problem, and there's a certain embarrassment and tedium to the whole thing, and I think that's contributing to not contacting him. Other thoughts? The classic, which is mañana, not today. No need to do it today. It's not pressing to do it today. So yeah, the classic.
But the one you said first, I've already had this problem with him once before.
Yeah.
What comes up for you when you think that thought?
Well, typically I think to myself, if this is what happens when you get a laptop, if I just thought to myself, if this is what happens when you get cracked anything on hardware, then perhaps I should just buy a new laptop because it's not worth the hassle. And I have been thinking about getting a new computer anyway because mine is pretty shite. But that's not optimal solution. It's not a it's not a solution to this problem. I just need to contact him and get it reinstalled, which typically fixes the problem for about a year.
Yeah, so you already had this problem once before. What's the emotion coming up when you think that?
Joy and sanguine.
No jokes allowed.
No jokes allowed. Okay.
We didn't have jokes today.
Kim Jong Pim. Well, obviously it's highly fastidious, so it's really irritating and frustrating. Yeah, it's irritating. I'm irritated.
Yeah. You know you have to do this. You already had this problem once before. You feel irritated, and then you do what?
What do I do when I'm irritated?
You procrastinate, but what do you do when you procrastinate? Because you're clearly not phoning him.
What do I do when I procrastinate? I typically spend the entire day making everything revolve around my addiction.
And that looks like what?
A wasted day.
Actions. What do you do? Physically do?
Frivolous actions. Go for coffee, go for lunch, meet people, go shopping to procure addictive substances, go gambling, watch internet porn, and occasionally take Class A drugs. But for the most part, it's eating. It's going back to the most established and reliable pleasure and comfort, which is eating. And I'm certain of that. And that's the interesting thing about the more pressure I put on myself, the more I'm aware of my procrastination. And then there are more difficult emotions which I want to avoid that are born out of that, by being so self-critical and harsh. So I've noticed that the worst days for binging and engineering my time to be, to just serve my addiction, the worst days are on the days when I attempt to address the things in the to-do list I have to do, because then that produces lots of tension and then that is unbearable, and that makes me run even harder, even more frantically towards sugar as a solution to that. Whereas if I in other words, if I decide to procrastinate on one specific necessary task, I don't decide to have a good day in spite of that. I never say, oh well, I'm going to procrastinate on the computer issue, but I'm still going to do my washing up and do the laundry and clean my bathroom and have a good day. It's never like that. It's the total annihilation of the day. So there is a link between procrastination and binging. They one leads to the other, almost always.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you don't want to do anything on your to-do list, because you know that once you try, you're going to end up binging, running away, meeting people, having coffee, eating food, buying addictive substances, watch porn, gamble, all of the things that you don't want, and some of the things that you do want. But you're just going to do things that you didn't mention are included in a good day.
But
So of course you're
but
going to
honestly,
avoid
I
it.
don't. But look, honestly, things are improving. My eating habits are improving. My self-care habits are improving. My interactions with people, when I feel instinctively like being negative, are improving. I'm becoming more disciplined in that regard. And in the last week, I did deal with 2 or 3 of the things on the to-do list. I contacted Virgin Media and I got the fine squashed. There was another problem where I got a parking fine which was invalid. It was for work. I was selling charcuterie at a football stadium, and I was told to park my car for the duration of the event, but they had an automated camera system that recorded me exceeding the allotted time one is permitted to park one's car. So again, I got that squashed immediately as soon as that problem came through. So things are improving, and
Yeah.
I can also say sincerely that uh, that when I tell you I'm going to make the video soon, that is true. I am, and I'm looking forward to it as well. And I'm changing my my thoughts around the issue so that they're more positive and more embracing of the project. So things are improving. I don't,
But let me know, when you did those things on the to-do list that you just mentioned, from what place did that come? Like what gave you the energy or the motivation to do it?
it was just simply it was an idea. Unfortunately, I don't like to say that I was inspired by a. Actually, I won't even mention his name. I was watching someone on the internet, and they were talking about motivation, and the way that they intellectualized it resonated with me, and then got it through to me. And I had never heard someone speak of so disparagingly of the concept of motivation before. Basically, this guy said motivation is it's a sort of a linguistic error. We're basically calling something he said that in most cases we use the term motivation to avoid using the real term and concept, which is discipline. Motivation, typically the way people talk about it, implies that they have to do something in order to motivate themselves, essentially to do something that they don't want to do. And motivation is used to make them to change their emotional response to it so that they want to do it. And he basically said that that's not what discipline is. Discipline is teaching yourself to say, I don't want to work out today, but I'm going to anyway. I don't want to study today, but I'm going to anyway. And after I heard that, perspective, the very next day when I looked at my to-do list, and I just said, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's something which I really need to get in touch with, and something which I really need to cultivate more, is the ability to just force myself to do something with my mind and totally disregard my emotional response to it. Don't listen or allow my emotions around the, you know, the task or the exertion to have any influence on my decision making. Just do it, basically. So yeah, focusing on that idea of his, though I don't particularly like him broadly as a person, he is right about that, in my opinion. And I've been trying to focus on that every day, on that idea of being disciplined rather than motivated. And I think I've been trapped in the, oh, I'm waiting for the motivation. I'm waiting for it to feel good inside, to think about doing a particular thing, and then I'll be ready to do it. I've been doing that for 20 years. I've been looking for motivation for 20 years. And I've never, ever, in any of my conversations with myself or with others, I've never, ever spoken about my problems as a lack of discipline. It's always been a lack of motivation, because I made the mistake of thinking that everyone does everything hard in life because they want to and because it makes them feel good. Like it feels good before they embark on the hardship. And
Yeah,
it was
but
totally wrong.
you know that you are getting motivated when you do something. Like after
Well,
you've done
that's
it,
the
you're going to be
irony.
more
The
motivated
irony,
to do more of it.
the irony is that motivation sort of comes after completion, as with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Um,
There are two ways to be motivated. One way is if you really hardcore believe that you are going to get to something, then you can be motivated from your thoughts. But when it comes to boring tasks as phoning some computer guy, just knowing that your Windows is going to work is, maybe motivating enough, but for most people, they would be like, no. You
yeah,
just
but
need to do it, and then you will be motivated to do
well, I
other
don't make it.
things
Forgive me,
because
but I don't make
it
a
makes you feel
distinction.
better when you have done it.
Yeah, well, I don't make a distinction between the two, because even
Between which
if
two?
it, between the being motivated for the pursuit of one's exciting dreams, or having to engage with
Right.
the banal and the laborious in the quotidian. I don't make a distinction between the two, because ultimately, there are still going to be, the pursuit of one's fantastical dreams is still going to involve setting oneself to the task of repetitive, rudimentary processes which are fucking boring. Like, it would be wonderful to be a grandmaster pianist, but I still have to sit down in front of the piano and go through scales and literally kind of spend hours moving my fingers and in internalizing the body mechanics of those movements. It's incredibly dull. And I had a childhood where neither of my parents instilled any discipline. I was permitted to develop without any concept of discipline. And I've just gone through my entire life thinking that
Okay,
when
stop.
you do something no, it's not a story.
Stop.
No, it's
Stop.
it's
Stop.
not. I'm
Stop.
just saying. What?
Alex.
It's not a fucking story. I was just coming to the end. I'm just saying, like, I don't have any concept of discipline, and that needs to change.
Yes, and we've been talking about this. I mean, I don't care who you are listening to. If there's something that resonates with you that you can adopt, and you said you were doing it, and you could go into that place of discipline and find a way of doing it that way. All I want you to do is do that. Whatever is working for you, do that. I don't care where it comes from, how you found it, what it sounds like, if it makes sense to me or not, I don't care. If it makes sense to you, it's a good thing. But what I wanted to say was just that when you start doing things, it's like things start snowballing. The motivation to get shit done will come when you start getting shit done, even the boring, tedious stuff. And then if you want to be a master pianist or whatever, then like you know that there are going to be a billion boring things that you have to do to get there. And then you just have to make a decision like, do I want to go through that to get to where I want to be? And you haven't wanted to do that so far. So the question now is like, why do you want to do all of these boring things that are on your to-do list? Why would you want to do them?
Well, I think I've got and just for the record, okay, before I get a raised Captain Spock eyebrow, right? Over the years, almost every time I have met young people who have tried to attribute their lack of progress in life to like ADHD, I've very cynically dismissed that, and so I don't want you to think that that I'm one of those people who is looking for some sort of self-diagnosis as a get-out clause for a lack of personal responsibility. But I took an ADHD test recently, and it came out like very, very high in terms of likelihood. And I know that when I know that my mind gets very, very easily distracted doing everything that requires concentration. Everything that requires concentrated exertion, my brain is highly prone to sort of drifting and meandering, being distracted. This is why I find it so difficult to read books. I've got to really, I feel like I'm kind of pulling on the reins of a wild horse when I'm reading a book to stop my mind from chattering over the narrative written by the author. And I've my friend has ADHD, and she was on a waiting list for like 6 months to receive drugs, which I think are in part based on amphetamine, which correct that problem in her and many others.
Why do you want to tell me this?
Well, because I think it could be part of the picture. Like my I've read that there are strong links between ADHD and eating disorders. So I don't know. Yes, okay, fine. It's irrelevant to what we're doing. Yes. You're being very mean today.
You went to tell me about this, and you did say something, but I can't remember exactly what you said actually. And then you mentioned a link between ADHD and eating disorders.
Yeah.
But we already know that some people have brains that are more prone to addictive behaviors than other people. We know that it's a completely normal brain. It's a very freaking efficient brain. Congratulations, you got one. So why did you want to tell me all about this?
Well, because in our quest to transform me into a functioning human being, there might be a few challenges I don't know. Why are you breaking my balls?
Because I love you.
Oh, fucking.
I just want to show you what's going on in your head. Because you just told
Okay.
me. I just carry on and I can't focus and there's things coming in. And I'm just trying to bring you back to, okay, what's actually going on here? So that you can have a look at that yourself. And then you have a look at it and you're like, actually, I don't really know why. You probably had a thought that it was relevant for some reason. And then when you have a look at it, it's like, well, that wasn't true.
Well, I don't know. I guess some part of me thought that you might be interested or receptive to knowing another detail about why potentially I have these problems so that you can broaden your understanding of me and my problems as they relate specifically to me. It's just
You are not that unique. You have a human brain,
I
which
didn't
is unique to
I,
you, but it still works the same way as other human brains.
I didn't present ADHD or having ADHD as rare or synonymously unique. I'm saying that I may have a common problem, and I took a test recently, and my score came back very, very high. And I
And do you
do.
think that that is affecting what we're doing here?
I don't know. Maybe it's difficult to know. Um, if I start pursuing that avenue in my own time, and say I am diagnosed with it and I am put on meds and those meds do help, and then the various aspects of my life which we are trying to improve are improved, that's going to be pertinent information to which you're going to want to be privy. It's not, I don't know. Why are you making me justify something so rudimentary? It's just, I'm just telling you that I'm just I'm just telling you who I am, or potentially.
Ah, okay. So you believe that you now you sort of think that you have ADHD, that you have to
No,
identify with that?
no, I don't. I'm a rationalist. I merely think that it is worth finding out,
Yeah, and that's fine.
because when I was in school struggling to focus on my studies, a number of teachers contacted my father to say I may have ADHD. Um, I remember my father doing some research about 10 years ago on executive function, and I remember he was trying to convince me to like see a doctor about potentially having problems with executive function, and I said to him with a certain hostility and defensiveness, because I didn't want to be diagnosed. I didn't want, as you say, to identify with a fucking label, because you meet these people, and you just know that every single time they meet someone new, they can't stop themselves from saying, well, I have ME, or I have PTSD, or I have depression, or I am non-binary, or whatever. And it's like, and I fucking hate that. I never wanted to be diagnosed and have like a label, a little
But now you were
PTSD,
looking into it.
ADHD. I didn't want to have an ADHD. Yeah, because just for the fuck of it, I took this test over my friend's house and answered the questions sincerely, and the test came back very high. And apparently, the arbiters of the test get very, very reliable results from the indications of the tests. More, it's accurate, and it's become like the gold standard for. I'm just saying it's a possibility, and I should be open-minded to this possibility, which I wasn't before, and that could be a mistake. That's all I'm saying. Just forget I said it. causing more fucking trouble than it's worth.
No, but it's interesting that you wanted to tell me that.
Well,
And
I want to tell you everything about my life, which is somehow and in some way linked to my problem of eating. Like,
yes, but do you think that the ADHD somehow might contribute to this problem?
yeah, well, that's the narrative in the medical profession. That's I'm not going to go as far as, you know,
But why
that's
do you
what
believe them?
I don't believe them. I'm compelled by the knowledge that some entity espouses that, and I believe that that is the basis for some investigation. I told you, I am a rationalist. I scrutinize the presented facts.
And even if those were proven facts, how would that change anything for you?
It wouldn't. It's because all I'm presenting is, oh, I'm gonna find out. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, do that. But the work that you need to do is still the same.
Yeah.
ADHD or not.
Again, I wasn't presenting it as an alternative.
No, I didn't think that.
It wasn't a detractor, like, from what we're doing. It's just,
what I want you to notice is that you often want to tell me a lot of things. That was just one of them. But none of those things will change the work that you need to do. They're just more information that might be interesting, but as a coach, when I'm coaching you, it doesn't really matter to me because it won't change what we're doing. Your brain is still a human brain. Your brain is still capable of building new neural pathways. You are still capable of feeling emotions on purpose with your brain. The only time I would say a human brain isn't capable of doing those things might be if you have a mental retardation of some kind that makes you unable to make, conclude things. And that's not your problem. You're very good at that. Are
I
you
don't
with me?
know. Well, I'm with you.
So you can have as much ADHD as you like. We still have the same work to do. And we might want to change it to urge work rather than cravings, because this is a pattern that pops up everywhere. The urge to procrastinate, the urge to go and do something else, the urge to eat, the urge to gamble, and so on. So I want to take a step back and I want you to write down how many urges you have successfully allowed. Because I think this is getting close to, you heard me talk about that before, when we swap, one addiction for another. Like I stop eating sugar, then I might start smoking, or stop smoking, I'll start drinking instead. It's like you stop eating and then you need to find another sort of relief. You will just move that to something else. You feel uncomfortable because you have to do something on your to-do list, or you think that you have to do it, and you will pop out to go for coffee or whatever. It's like this knock-on effect, and it just coming back in your life over and over again. So you're never going to feel like you are in control if you can't transfer the skill that you practice with the cravings into other areas of your life.
Oh, believe me, I know that, you know, I have a very broad problem with existence, not a precise one.
Yeah. So I know that I've asked you this before, but in order to sort this out, are you willing to feel your emotions?
Yeah, I love feeling emotions.
I know you do. But it's really, really simple. If you are prepared to feel any emotion, you can overcome any of these problems that you have coming back in your life. Because in every single case, we can track this back to an emotion that you don't want to feel. So this is all I want you to focus on next week. Like, tell me how many, I want a specific number of how many times you have allowed those emotions or the urges that come up to do something else. When you have planned to do something and you don't do it, what happened? Then you have not allowed that emotion to be there. Whenever you have a thought that, okay, now I'm doing something different than what I was supposed to be doing. Like, check yourself. Like, okay, hey, what, Alex, what's going on here? You might not notice it the first time, like, just end up being out for coffee and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I should have done that. How on earth did this happen? You might not know the answer the first time, but the more aware you are before it happens, the more you're going to be able to catch yourself, and then you can go to allowing the urges. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you are totally comfortable with allowing the emotions. Like, you know how to do it when you're doing it. It's just that you avoid doing it sometimes. Am I right?
Yeah, and it's also about the power of my mind as well. How convincing my rationalizations are for acting on urges when they occur. So it's in part about the battle for what I choose to emphasize and focus on and prioritize. I should stop dead in my tracks when I feel an urge, and that stopping dead in my tracks is an acknowledgement of essentially of my own existence. And I have lived in total disregard of my existence and its importance. I think, though this could just be pseudo psychological claptrap, I think that typically people who become self-important in their communication, which I have become, are compensating for the fact that they don't really take the fundamentals of their existence seriously, and they don't give importance to the areas that matter. So it displaces and goes to the ego. I think I will be a lot less self-important and arrogant and egotistical in my dealings with people if I was secure in the knowledge that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing in my life, that I was taking myself seriously, my well-being and my future seriously, and the idea that I can actually contribute something of significance to the world. And I've had total disregard for that and very little self-worth since I was a child. And that is precisely why when those urges come and I have to stay in the pocket with those feelings, I don't want to, because I don't even want to acknowledge my own existence. I just I just have a finite amount of fuel to burn, and I want to just burn it up until I am a burnt out husk. And it's, you know, such is the nature of the slow suicide of addiction. And, you know, it's not like that for everyone. I know it's not like that for you, but it's like that for me. My addiction is inexorably tied to my self-hatred, which in turn is connected to my past. It's just, so for me, the moment where I have to stay in those feelings is that's why it's so hard and so unbearably unpleasant, because it means that to a certain extent, staying in the pocket with my feelings, not acting on urges, means I have to stand and face how much I hate myself. And it's
That's
painful.
a negative emotion.
Yeah, it's painful. It's very painful. I know, I have the intellectual knowledge that it will get better over time, but the first stages of learning this process, the first wave, is going to be really painful, really uncomfortable, and there are demons there I just don't want to face because I'm a coward.
Okay, so when you do this and those thoughts are coming up and the self-hatred is coming up, I want you to stay with the feeling in your body of the self-hatred. But I don't want you to continue thinking all of those thoughts that fuel that emotion. You can think about nothing, or you can think about something more neutral. You don't have to go to I love myself, because you're not going to believe that. So that's going to be a waste of brain power. But I want you to stop yourself from fueling that self-hatred with those thoughts that you just told me. And I bet you have another 50 billion of those that can come up in different variations. So just focus on the sensation in your body and like really channel all your focus to there, so that you don't have all of those thoughts just ruminating in your head and making it even worse. Because then we can just spiral down into like the pit of self-pity and self-hatred, and that just goes on and on and on, and that's not going to be very helpful. Okay. So the only thing that I want you to really focus on this week, like the only thing that matters right now, your one priority is to feel and allow all the urges in all areas of your life whenever they come up, and keep a record of them. Okay?
Aye, Captain.
Aye, Captain. Okay, I think we're done for today. So thank you very much for watching. Apologies for being late. We had some internet problems for those of you who didn't read that. Hopefully it will be a lot better next week. So we'll see you then. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.